Thank you. I'm very grateful for Gordon and the sponsors of this important event inviting me, and governors, ambassadors, excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm flying from the country to host the Rugby World Cup, and we are now leading countries of the Group A league and to the countries of the leaders of the Group D. As Gordon kindly introduced that I'm governor of Japan Bank International Corporation, 100% owned by the Japanese government, but autonomously managed by the board of directors, which I chair. We have many financing products and from debt financing and equity investment. And we have a long history and track record of financing to Australia, especially mining of natural resources, natural gas, and minings, and mineral and metals. And as many speakers already referred to that, the critical minerals as a strategically very important from the perspective of the transition to the low carbon economy, and the critical metals indispensable for making that the battery and next generation battery and electric vehicles and so on and so forth, like cobalt, lithium, nickel, and rare earths. And the challenges we face in securing that supply chain of this, as Dr. Stephen Fortier referred to this morning, that this not only that the mining upstream, but also for defining capacity and the full supply chain is critically important. And also the challenge is that the volatility of the market, and sometimes strategically, some countries try to capture all of the supply chain. We experienced the crisis in 2010 on rare earths, and China suddenly puts a constraint on the export of rare earths. As a result, the price of rare earths has been jumped up by 10,000%. It's a huge risk, and therefore that the commercial activities. And many countries using state-sponsored enterprises, so that this is a very difficult for to compete them for private sector. Therefore, that let me very briefly explain that the position of the government of Japan on securing the full supply chain of critical mineral. Most of the challenges is basically due to that uneven distribution of the mineral. And for example, the cobalt, the 60% of cobalt upstream resources is in a Democratic Republic of Congo. And sometimes it is very hard for private sectors to invest in such a country like Democratic Republic of Congo. And also that in terms of the refining capacity, now a country like China is now increased more the percentage share of this refining capability. So this is therefore that's really vulnerable, and volatility is leading challenges for our private sector. Therefore, in 2019, June 2019, the Japanese government addressed that the engagement by the government and the public sector to secure this supply chain of critical minerals. And JBIC played a key role, as well as the JOGMEC partners and the state-owned companies in Japan. And we have two directions. One is to provide risk money to support the activity of the private sector, to mitigate volatility of the market risk. and to strengthen international competitiveness of the Japanese companies, the private companies. And for example, that the JBIC provided financing to that the upstream and also refining the nickel and cobalt in Madagascar, whose country risk is very high. And also that the sister institution JOGMEC is also doing the project with Toyota trading companies and Australian companies on the production of lithium in Argentina. So this is one of the examples that we makes the effort to support private sector's activities. And also second important the measures is recycling for Japanese companies. One of the Japanese private companies, Sumitomo Metal and mining companies, already has established technologies to capture the nickel and cobalt from the used batteries and to recycle. And other Japanese companies also have different technology to capture those used minerals and to be recycled. And this is two major pillars of Japanese government to support to support Japanese private sectors to secure that these supply chain. And finally, I'd like to refer to our effort in Indo-Pacific together with our partners, allies, Australia and the United States. We signed memorandum of cooperation in November last year for trilateral memorandum of cooperation with a U.S. agency, OPIC, now turned to be a U.S. IDFC, and also that Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and also Export Finance Insurance Corporation of Australia. We sent a joint mission to the country like Papua New Guinea, or Solomon Islands and Palau, and countries in the Southern Pacific Islands. Most recently, we dispatched a mission jointly to Indonesia, so that to deploy the quality infrastructure, including submarine cables and so on and so forth in those countries. We are going to enhance this trilateral partnership more and more. And also, we are going to make some of announcements and take an opportunity of ASEAN meetings in Bangkok and Thailand, and also other occasions that we continuously announce new progress of trilateral partnership, which will cover the entire Indo-Pacific. And also at the same time, we are coordinating with the Chinese as well. And we signed a MOU with the China Development Bank in a project in the third countries. And we propose to 5 conditions to Chinese. One is transparency, 2, inclusiveness, 3, viability of the project, 4, debt sustainability, and finally, rule of the law. If China agrees on entire 4 or 5 conditions, we are going to cooperate with China. And they agreed, and they accepted entire 5 conditions. Therefore, that we are doing a project in Thailand and other countries in cooperation with China Development Bank. Therefore, that our hope is not to contain China, but to include China as our partners. And also that we are demonstrating our strong partnership with the United States and Australia, not just only infrastructure, but also that with mining and those refining of critical minerals. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and thank you again, Professor Gordon Frake, for inviting me to this critical, very important conference. Thank you so much.